Okay, I'm sorry, but I don't really have a voice, so this could be an awkward meeting. But I call it to order at 9:06 p.m. and we're gonna call roll.
All right, President Baker. Proxy. Woolrice. Here. Hansen. Weiss. Here. Jones.
Proxy.
Brown. Lovett. Here. Sid. Proxy. Martel. McMurtry. Here. Duncan. Here. Senators Baker. Woolrice.
Here.
Hansen. Here. Weiss.
Here.
Jones. Okay. Brown.
Here.
Lovett. Sid.
Oh, here.
Martel. McMurtry. Duncan. Here. And all the execs.
Alright, meeting minutes from last week. Meeting minutes from last week. All those in favor? All those opposed? Awesome. Rec Center Advisory Board.
We're looking for 2 new people to serve on the Rec Center Advisory Board. Basically, they oversee a lot of the Rec Center operations, facilities, and like IM sports. And so basically just let people know that there's an opportunity to serve on that committee. I think they meet like bi-monthly, monthly. It's a really low time commitment, but just send me an email. It's rus1@rice.edu. Have people send me an email if they're interested.
Great. Andres.
All right. First of all, I want to announce our new Director of Technology, X. He's sitting over there at the computer. As promised, we will Skype Hadi during one of our Senate meetings. We all miss him very much, but this is a new age, new Director of Technology. Also, we'll have a new elections chair. I haven't actually notified all the applicants yet, but I do have one chosen, and I will let you guys know in the immediate future. But regarding election committee, not only do we have this new chair, but also Brian, who is supposed to be on the committee as parliamentarian, will have a conflict of interest. So we will be appointing a replacement parliamentarian just for that committee in the future. So if that's something that anyone of you or anyone that you know might be interested in, as long as they're not running for any positions in the general elections or spring elections, let me know.
Well, spring elections okay because I can do the spring. I just can't do general.
All right, just general. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Rice Environmental Society is here to talk about their organization and request.
You bring the legislation up.
Yeah. I guess that's not actually.
They're not requesting funds.
I take it back.
So good evening, everyone. For those of you that don't know, my name is Agustinus Thompson. I'm the senator from Sid Richardson College. I've been working alongside Michael Donati, the senator from Duncan College, to put together this legislation as well as a new organization on campus known as the Rice Environmental Society. And a little bit about how this organization came to be. For those of you that were here last year and in previous years, they still exist, the organization Reset, which was an organization that received blanket tax funding, and then students could then apply to use that money to drive sustainable and environmentally driven projects on campus. So they put LEDs into a couple different colleges, they've put in water bottle fillers, and they've helped different other projects like that on campus. So as of last year, they stopped receiving funding. They got shut down on the ballot, and so they were essentially dissolved in terms of money. So we kind of took it upon ourselves to look at that and see how could we put together an organization that still drives environmental and sustainable initiatives on campus, and this was essentially our solution. So the Rice Environmental Society is a coalition of existing environmental groups on campus. Right now there are 9 that are a part of it, including such organizations as Rice Bikes, the Real Food Revolution, the Environmental Committee, even Housing and Dining. Their sustainable department is considered to be a part of this organization, and we've met with the leaders of all of those, and they've all agreed to be a part of this. So no longer is this limited to just students who have projects. This is now something that's targeted to existing organizations, and it now is a broader umbrella that people can get on board with. And so to go along with that, along with the charter, and it's already an existing organization, Michael worked with the leaders of RES to put together this legislation that we're here to introduce today.
Yeah, so the Rice Environmental Society, like Alex mentioned, has already become a club. Like it's in the books, it's official, and right now it's going through the blanket tax committee to become eligible to run for a blanket tax in the general election in February. And so we thought we would come out with this legislation to support it, make people aware of it, and also kind of rekindle the flame of, environmental awareness on campus. So it's a pretty short piece of legislation. It references the 100-year sustainability plan that was passed 2 years ago, which was an effort by some students back then to make environmentalism and sustainability key things to think about in the next century. It references the fact that there are many student groups and many students working for environmental things on campus, but they're all kind of working in isolation from one another. It mentions the fact that RESET, the Rice Endowment for Sustainable Energy Technology, lost its funding last year. I want to clarify, it didn't lose it because it was voted down. It lost it because there was inadequate voter turnout. It unfortunately got placed on the later election, and it didn't have the 20% quorum. However, it did pass. Like within the votes that it got, it did pass. So it lost its money through kind of a technicality. And then, so we resolved that the Student Association encourages, once again, that the university consider environmentalism in every action that it takes at all levels. We are trying to acknowledge as the Student Senate that we support this new organization that's going to hopefully strengthen environmentalism on campus. We also hope to create a permanent position on the executive board of the new society for a chair of the environmental committee so that the SA is always working hand in hand with this new organization. And then finally, we have a last result in there that's kind of vague, but just saying that we support RES getting money in some form so that it can continue to do what RESET did and maybe even then some. And hopefully if Blanket Tax Committee approves our organization to run for the blanket tax funding, then we can make that last point a bit more specific.
And so just to clarify, for some people that think that this is just RESET trying to make a comeback, it's actually more than that at this point, because we are now, this is a coalition of existing environmental groups on campus. This is something that the university and students can point to against our peer institutions. So other institutions such as Stanford and Princeton actually have things in place that look just like this, where they have a variety of environmental or sustainable groups on campus that work together to actually drive initiatives not only on their campus, but in their community around them. And they receive funding in the tens of thousands of dollars. So this is something that already exists at peer institutions that Rice is lacking. So by putting this together, we're actually becoming more competitive in terms of sustainable and environmental initiatives, which is very cool as well. And do we have any of the officers or members of RES in the room right now? Yes, so our president is here. This is Ashley. She's going to be, she's the first president of RES, so she's...
and she's currently the head of the Rice Student Volunteer Program Environmental Committee or Section. Yeah.
Yep. Working alongside her is Alex Lange, who is the chair of RESET right now. So they're going to be serving as the treasurer. The SA's Environmental Committee is going to be sitting on that, on the executive board of that, and for those of you that know Richard Johnson, who's in H&D, he's going to be working as well. So this is something that is impacting a lot of people. It's very cool and it's very exciting. So at this time, we'd like to open the floor to any questions that you guys have either about the legislation or about the organization as a whole. Brian.
Has RESET been able to do anything this year without the blank tax funding?
Talking to Alex a little bit, I don't have concrete answers to any projects. I know that he was working on finishing up getting some LEDs put in, so they have been using some of the last little bit of money that they had left over, but I don't know how far any of those projects have gone.
I don't think they pursued any new projects. They just spent the rest of their blanket tax money on the LED project that they just realized.
That's what I understood as well. Are there any other questions about the resolution for the organization?
I'm just curious, what was the vote breakdown when in the spring election when there wasn't enough turnout?
So my understanding of what happened with the elections, I'm not sure of the exact numbers. The blanket tax renewal needed a 2/3 vote in favor to pass. In the general election, the turnout was adequate. It was something like 65% and needed 67. In the spring election, it was, I think, well over 67, but didn't have enough turnout.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Maybe can I talk about elections?
Well, I can talk.
He's going to talk about elections.
All right. So you've all been referring to these elections. Soon, you all will be able to practice your democratic rights and elect numerous positions that make a big impact here at Rex. These positions are included here on the screen. So there's various positions, not just SA for any of you guys, for any new students that don't know exactly all the positions on the general elections. As far as student association, all the exec positions, so us five, all our positions will be up for grabs. There's also the president equivalent for a lot of the blanket tax organizations, and subsidiary organizations. There's various RSVP positions. Sammy the Owl, that's usually a pretty hotly contested race, very prestigious. I recommend everyone run for it.
When was the last time anyone ran for it?
I don't know, but it's if you want to run for it, it's there. So that's what will be on the general elections, as well as referenda such as those calling for changes in constitutions for any of the subsidiary organizations. Such as our constitution will be on the general elections. And also anything to do with blanket tax, if RES is allowed to run for blanket tax, they'll be on the general election. So that's what you'll be voting. If we go to the next slide, here's what the timeline will look like for anyone that's interested in running for any of the positions that we just showed. Next week, next Monday, January 20th, petitions will become available for any of the positions I was just listed, as well as the execs, S5 will be in Coffee House. If any of you guys have, if anyone has any questions about our positions, if they're curious, or if they want to run for those, petitions are due the week after that, January 27th. Once you've all become verified as candidates, there'll be a mandatory candidate meeting before the Senate meeting on February 3rd. February 5th to 9th is campaigning. That's when all the candidates can make your posters and give speeches at cabinets and all that good stuff. It's a lot of fun. The ballot's approved on February 10th. We'll also have the presidential debate, barring that we have more than one person running for president. There will be a debate on February 10th. Then the week of February 10th will be the elections. We'll explain the link to get to those, but it'll probably be a lot like we'll be using the same system developed by the computer science kids at Brown that we used for the runoff elections last year. And then election results will be announced Senate meeting on February 17th. Are there any questions regarding general elections or any like this stuff?
Just like, so for the essay positions, I know that none of us here are sophomores right now, but that doesn't mean that any of these positions are limited to people who are upperclassmen. I was secretary my sophomore year, as is Michael. And so none of these positions have any rules on like who can run for them or anything like that. So if you're interested, please come talk to us, and we would love for you to run.
Treasurer does.
What?
Treasurer does. You have to like know how to manage money.
Well, yeah. Hopefully you know how to manage money if you're running for treasurer.
And you cannot be in academic probation.
Oh yeah, there's
Stop and think.
yeah. And then all of this will be on the website, and petitions will be made available on the 9th, or at 9 p.m. next Tuesday. Not on the 9th. I don't know why I said that. On that note, we don't have a meeting next week because you don't have school. So you don't need to be here. But like Nathan said, us 5 will be in Coffee House to talk about the different positions, or talk to you if you want to figure out, what you want to run for at your colleges or different organizations. We can sit and talk through that with you. For people who are considering running for college president or SA president, there's 2 president info sessions, so there'll be a panel of your presidents, and Dean Hutchinson and Kata Bond will talk a little bit about the position and the responsibilities, and also kind of reflect on things that we've learned throughout our year, so you can kind of understand what you're getting into. So if you have any interest in that, they're going to be next Wednesday at noon at Sewell Hall 307 and 6 p.m. at Sewell Hall 309. And you'll see flyers for that everywhere, hopefully. All right, any other announcements? Awesome. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?